Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into, wow, it's a pretty interesting story. It really
Yeah.
caught my eye. It's about this luxury hotel, the Orchid Regency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super fancy. They have like sparkling chandeliers and marble floors and all that.
I gotcha.
But alongside that, we're also looking at a real-life news snippet
Okay.
about Patrick Mahomes.
Really? Interesting combo.
Yeah, it is. So the story we're diving into focuses on the hotel staff,
Right.
particularly this woman named Ellie Jackson.
Ellie Jackson.
Yeah, she's a veteran janitor there. And it quickly becomes clear that her life is completely different
Oh, I bet.
from the guests enjoying all the fancy stuff.
Worlds apart, Rebel.
Exactly. And the author really hits you over the head with that difference. Like in the opening scene, Ellie and her colleague Clara are walking through these grand hallways.
Mm-hmm.
You can just like feel the weight of Ellie's years of hard work, right?
Yeah.
As she's pushing her cleaning cart past these pristine windows and luxurious decor. Yeah, it's like a really powerful image.
Yeah. That's interesting the way that they use those details, those
Yeah.
visuals. It's like they're foreshadowing something deeper. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
like the contrast between Ellie's hands and the hotel's shiny surfaces.
Yeah,
It's not just description, it's like a commentary
right.
on how we don't see the work that keeps these places looking so fancy.
It makes you think, about all the people behind the scenes
Totally.
working hard.
Yeah.
And the story really highlights that divide.
Okay.
When Ellie and Clara have to clean the presidential suite
Uh-oh.
after a wild party,
Okay.
and the description of the scene, it's amazing.
What is it like?
Confetti everywhere,
Yes.
champagne bottles, pizza boxes everywhere.
Oh, no.
You can practically like smell the stale air
Oh, yeah.
and hear the echoes of the party that Ellie missed out on.
Oh.
It's crazy vivid.
The author is really painting a picture there.
Totally. And it's more than just a good description,
Right.
That chaos, that disregard for the effort needed to clean up,
Yeah.
it says a lot about how the staff's work is viewed. It's like those scattered pizza boxes.
What about them?
They're like a symbol
Right.
of how their work is just tossed aside.
Oh, I see.
Like, doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I get it.
And that brings us to this character,
Okay.
Richard Hensley, the hotel owner.
Ah, the owner. Okay.
Yeah, he's like the opposite of Ellie.
Yeah.
Expensive suit, perfectly shined shoes.
Mm.
And his reaction to the mess is something else.
What does he do?
He totally loses it.
What?
Yeah. He just unleashes this tirade at Ellie, calling her slow, sloppy, and useless.
Oh, wow.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Especially since she hasn't even had a chance to really start cleaning.
Right.
And you know what makes it even weirder?
What?
There's this big dignity and labor event happening at the hotel at the same time.
Seriously?
Yeah, talk about irony, right?
Yeah, bit ironic.
Given how Hensley's treating his own staff. And it makes you think there's going to be some drama, especially with a certain high-profile guest coming.
Oh.
But before we get into that, remember the news about Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. I'm curious how that ties in.
Right. Well, it turns out Mahomes and his wife are expecting their third child.
Oh, wow. Congrats to them.
And the timing is kind of interesting.
Okay, how so?
The baby's due date lines up with the Chiefs' playoff bye week.
Oh, wow.
So Mahomes might actually be able to be there for the birth.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's like, even at this point,
Yeah.
it shows the difference in their agency.
Oh, I see.
Mahomes at the top of his game. He can control his schedule,
Right.
prioritize family in a way that Ellie probably can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You're right.
His life seems full of choices and opportunities.
It does.
And Ellie's is all about limitations.
Yeah.
Really makes you think, especially with that dignity and labor event going on.
Yeah.
Could there be a connection between these two worlds?
Oh, good question.
Mahomes, a symbol of success and privilege, ending up somehow involved in Ellie's struggles.
That's a great point. And the story cuts off right as Hensley is confronting Ellie.
Oh.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Wow.
So before we find out what happens, let's dig into this Mahomes news.
Okay.
And see if we can untangle the potential connections.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah.
It's like the author is putting Mahomes right there next to Ellie,
Wait.
this guy who can decide when and where he works.
Yeah.
And Ellie, whose life is controlled by her job.
It makes you think about all the different kinds of freedom people have.
Yeah, for sure.
And the article about Mahomes even mentions people guessing what they'll name the baby,
Oh, yeah.
wondering if they'll stick with that metal theme.
With sterling and bronze, right?
Exactly. It's a small thing, but it
Yeah.
shows how happy and excited they are about their family.
That's so different from what's going on at the hotel, right?
Totally.
Ellie's facing this horrible confrontation with her boss. It's like the author is purposely using these two stories side by side
Okay.
to show how differently people experience work and family.
It does make you wonder if the author is setting us up for some kind of twist.
Like what?
Like, what if Mahomes shows up at this dignity and labor event
Okay, yeah.
and sees how Hensley's treating Ellie
Uh-huh.
and then uses his fame to speak out against it?
Wow. That would be something.
Right.
It would be a big statement about people with power and influence standing up for those who are overlooked.
It would be amazing to see Ellie finally get the respect she deserves,
I agree.
especially after how Hensley acted.
Oh, and don't forget, Clara tried to defend Ellie,
Oh, yeah, she did.
but Hensley just shut her down completely.
He did, didn't he?
Total power move.
Yeah, it shows how vulnerable they are.
Totally.
They're stuck relying on him for their jobs.
Yeah, and speaking up could cost them everything.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
It is.
All the challenges people face, even in fancy places like that hotel. Makes you think about all the people who keep things running smoothly,
Yeah.
the ones who never get the credit they deserve.
That's the thing, these two stories together.
Yeah.
The fictional one with Ellie and the real one with Mahomes.
Uh-huh.
They force us to face those hard truths.
Do you?
We gotta look beyond the surface and think about the hidden cost of all the luxury we take for granted.
It's like we're being asked to consider
What?
how our own choices, maybe even indirectly,
Yeah.
contribute to these unfair systems.
That's deep.
Right. Do we ever stop and think about the people who clean our hotel rooms
Yeah.
or serve our food or deliver our packages?
That's a good point.
Do we treat them with the same respect we expect for ourselves?
That's a big question.
It is.
Yeah.
And even though the Mahomes thing is just a what if,
Right.
it makes you wonder what would happen if someone like him
With all his influence, yeah.
decided to use it for workers' rights.
That would be huge.
Right.
It could change the conversation
To-
about fair treatment and working conditions.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
And even if the author doesn't directly connect Mahomes to Ellie's story,
Okay.
maybe they're saying we can all be allies,
Oh, I like that.
that we can use our voices to help those who are silenced.
That's a really powerful way to look at it.
It is.
It fits perfectly with what the story's about.
And even if we're not famous athletes with tons of followers,
Right.
we could still be mindful of the people who help us every day.
Absolutely.
Treat them with respect, acknowledge their hard work, and fight for them.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's a good reminder that even small actions can make a difference,
They really can.
and that we all have a part to play in making the world fairer.
Totally agree. So while we wait to see what happens at the hotel,
Yeah.
maybe that's the biggest lesson for our listeners.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
let's think about those bigger questions
Good idea.
and how we can use these ideas in our own lives.
Yeah.
Because knowing about these issues is just the start.
Right.
The real work is turning that knowledge into action. We've peeled back all these layers of this story,
Mm-hmm. We have.
but it all leads back to this one question.
Yeah.
How do we really appreciate all the work that makes our lives possible?
That's the thing. It's so easy to forget about that in our daily lives.
Right.
We get caught up in the flashy stuff, the famous people,
Yeah.
the ones who get all the awards.
Uh-huh.
But what about the people working behind the scenes, the
Right.
ones we don't even notice?
Ones cleaning up after those crazy parties in the presidential suite.
Exactly. They're the ones making sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah.
So we can enjoy those fancy experiences
Yeah.
without having to deal with the mess.
And yet we just take them for granted.
Yeah, it's sad.
Sometimes we even look down on them.
We do, like with Ellie.
It makes you think,
Yeah.
what if we were more aware of all those unseen people?
Hmm.
What if we actually saw them?
Really saw them.
Yeah. Acknowledge their hard work and all the sacrifices they make.
That's a tough one.
It is. It's hard to shift our focus
From what?
from the finished product
Uh-huh.
to how it got there,
I see.
from the glamour to the reality behind it.
It's a challenge, but I think it's worth it,
I agree. Because valuing all kinds of work,
whether it's glamorous or not.
right. It's about seeing everyone as human.
Recognizing that we're all connected.
Yeah.
We all contribute in our own ways.
And even though we don't know how Ellie's story ends,
Or if Mahomes will show up.
right, the author's real question,
Is that?
what part will we play?
Oh, that's good.
Will we keep these unfair systems going?
Yeah.
Or will we try to build a world where everyone is valued and respected?
A world where everyone's work matters.
That's a great way to put it.
It is something to think about.
It is. And it reminds us
Of what?
that we're not just listening to this story.
Mm,
We have the power to change things.
through our choices. Yeah.
So as you go about your day,
Okay.
think about the people who make your life easier.
Even in small ways.
And maybe take a moment to thank them.
To really see them.
Yeah, to see them as people who deserve our respect and appreciation.
Well said.
And on that note, we'll leave you to think about all of this.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
We'll see you then.